I need to get it together. So, this is the Cloud Built submission video for AGDQ 2019. We're going to be playing full game Defiance, which is every single officially released level in the game, start to finish. 41 of them in total, and it should take us somewhere between 50 and 55 minutes. I haven't entirely decided what the estimate's going to be, but you'll see that in the application, assuming this is the run that actually is good enough to be an application. So, without any further ado, I'll save the rest of the information for the run, starting in 3, 2, 1, go. So, Cloud Built, interestingly enough, has 2 tutorial levels. This is what I like to call the Ghost Demi level, and Demi has both no body and, more importantly, no jetpack. This is the level that's just supposed to be there to give you the basics of the game, how exactly Demi likes to move, what your basic controls are, how she can run on walls, all that fun stuff. But even still, there's a couple of shortcuts that we can take to shave a little bit of time, such as running up this wall to skip running back into that back area. And any time under 35 seconds is good for this level. And I can't see my timer, and this feels like it might have been a little over 35 seconds, so I might have made myself look a little silly. This is our level select, where we'll be coming back at the end of each level. And this is the first, or the real tutorial level, where you get to use your jetpack. By default, this level will pause the game at various points in order to teach us mechanics. So we need to navigate through the menus to turn that off. And finally, we get to the fun part. Now, your jetpack has 2 abilities, a horizontal dash and a vertical jump, costing 25 and 33 energy respectively. Now these 2 abilities can combo together into what's called a dash jump combo for a total of 45 energy. And I know that was a lot of numbers, but basically all you need to know is that you can do 2 dash jump combos on a full tank of energy and you have a little bit left over. 45 plus 45 is 90, you have 100 energy to work with every single time. And that combo, that uses 90 energy, is going to basically be the foundation of all the skips that we do. Now, at the end of each level, we do a little breakdown of our times. That little bar at the bottom will fill up D, C, B, and S ranks. Basically, all of them should be full bar S ranks. If something's not an S rank, it means it probably went horribly wrong. So hopefully that won't end up happening. And then in terms of other mechanics available to us, we also have Demi's gun. As you can see, it's currently blue. It has 3 levels of charge. If I were to fire it, it would start off at yellow, and then as I continue to hold down the button, it goes up to green, and then finally to blue. Now, the important thing about charging it up is not only does it give more damage, but also gives the gun additional knockback, and that knockback's really what we're going to use it for. By firing it at our feet, we can get a lot of extra height on our jumps, and it can also be used for a couple of other things, such as traversing walls without using energy, and breaking falls. So it's a really good catch-all if I were to make a mistake. So if I land just short, I can use the knockback from the gun to finish a climb, or if I fall, I can avoid taking fall damage by firing at my feet. It's a really, really convenient mechanic. Let's see, other important mechanics. In terms of mechanics, there isn't too much that I can talk about right now. As things come up, I'll discuss them more directly. Coming up is one of my favorite levels, though. It contains a skip called Disc Jump. So these enemies called keepers in the game, that their goal is to keep you out of places. They're basically giant floating discs, and they track Demi 1-to-1, so you can't get by them. But they do have a maximum range that they'll travel within. So we are going to end up using a keeper up here, basically like a platform. We're going to jump out of its maximum range and land on top of it. No! Oh my god, I messed it up. Hold on, let's go. So, usually it's a little bit cleaner than that. But by landing on top of them, we use it like a platform. Jump up to that platform down there, and it skips about half the level. And it is one of my favorite skips in the game. I usually don't mess it up. It's a real shame that I did, but not a big deal. The next level has one of the least consistent jumps in the entire run, which, considering I just messed up my most consistent, hopefully I'll be able to nail this one to make up for it. But this jump coming up here has basically 3 things that can happen. Ideally, we want to land on that platform up there. And we did it! Oh my god, that's amazing! The other alternative is I will end up way short of that platform, and you might have seen that glowing yellow checkpoint below. I would end up landing down there, and then I would need to navigate my way up, and it costs a decent bit of time. So that was a fair trade. I'd never expect to land that jump because it's so ridiculously inconsistent. Luckily, there's an easy backup, but I would say the odds of me landing that are like 1 in 10.
I make here, I find
This next level shows off kind of what the consistency of those jumps are supposed to be. We're going to set up a very similar jump to the inconsistent one in the previous level, but this one's really, really easy for whatever reason. I don't fully understand why, but it's the same idea. We're going to go to the top of this ramp. Oh, I never talked about the free dash. So you might have noticed I'm standing perfectly still before I do that jump. And charging my jetpack. So by holding down shift, I can charge up a dash, and then once I pick a direction for that dash, usually forward, it will cost me 0 energy. And I mentioned earlier that the combo that we always use, 2 dash jump combos, costs 90 energy with a little bit left over. Well, if your dash is free, because of the way the numbers work out, you can actually do 3 dash jump combos if you charge up that dash. So that's a really powerful combo that we can use anytime that we have a ramp. Because obviously, that's a lot of horizontal momentum. You need something to redirect it vertically. So ramps are really important for that. A general rule of thumb in a lot of level 1 Cloudboat is that if it has a ramp, you just want to get to that ramp ASAP and use it to skip a large section. Now this level here, let's talk a little bit about the level order. So we're doing the original 22 first, which as the name implies are the 22 levels that were released when the game first came out. And those levels are broken up into 4 branches, with each one having like its big finale level. And this is the big finale level for the Night Branch. So this level is a lot longer and a decent bit harder than the other levels you'll see in the original 22. But in the grand scheme of the game and the more difficult DLC that was released, it's still not particularly challenging. But if I were to be tripped up, it would be on one of these final 4 levels. So in the original 22, we basically have 4 final levels to contend with. Also, every branch in the original 22 is considered an ending. So every time we finish a branch, it will kick us out to the main menu and we'll need to enter back in. And I will say, I have once accidentally started a new game when I was kicked out to the menu, and it did make me very sad. So this is a good example of a level where your goal is to get to the ramp as quickly as possible and then use it to skip the entire level. So we're just going to jump straight up this ramp. Then our goal is to get to that platform there, which we just barely make. And then from here, we're basically already at the end of the level. Gotta wait here for a little bit of energy. Fun fact, if Demi is standing perfectly still for about a second, her energy will regenerate much quicker. So you might notice that after I finish a long jump, if I have another long jump right afterwards, my goal is to come to a complete standstill as quickly as possible, so I can get my energy back as quickly as possible. We're okay. So ideally, I would have jumped directly from that platform up to here. I ended up catching up on the edge of it, so I had to do a little bit of disaster avoidance, but everything worked out, so it's no big deal. And then from here, it's just 2 short hops to the end of the level. As you can see, the dash jump combo is just such a powerful way to traverse levels. It gives you so much height distance for a very reasonable amount of energy. This level coming up is one of my favorites in the original 22. It's quite a long level, taking somewhere between 45 and 50 seconds. And the thing that makes it so fun is that there aren't really any massive skips available to you. Much like the tutorial level, you kind of just have to play well, which is the best kind of level, because at its core, I love Cloudboat's mechanics. So if you just tell me that I need to platform well for 45 seconds, I'm very on board. There is one exception to that, though. Coming up ahead of this checkpoint, there's going to be a massive ramp, and if we use a particular combo on it, we can skip the next platforming section. But the key is this combo actually costs 125 energy. So what we're going to do is right before we grab this energy pickup down here, we're going to dash, and that will give me 150 energy or 125 energy to work with, making that skip possible. And it's always fun to land on top of the goals. So that took us 46 seconds, which is pretty good. One thing you might have noticed is that in that level, I restarted at a checkpoint as soon as I hit it. That's because restarting at a checkpoint gives you a 3-second death penalty, but we don't care about that because this is real time. But also, refills your energy completely. This is another one of those final levels, and another one of my favorites. It's not as long as Acceptance, but the platforming at the beginning is just so satisfying. Now, I mentioned earlier that ramps are really important for the free dash combo, but using a trick called corner jumps, we can actually create ramps wherever we need them. And I mentioned earlier that if I run out of energy and fall short on a jump, I can use the gun. Oh my god, I got sniped! What a god! That turret saw me and just totally took me off the wall. I've never had that happen before. Okay, well I guess more time to explain corner jumps. So, by backing away from the edge of a platform as much as we possibly can, we can trick Cloudbuilt into thinking that there's a ramp here. And this will redirect all of our momentum vertically. So that's what that jump is supposed to look like. I tried to save it. I seriously actually just died again. No, I didn't. No, I did. Okay. It's all good. It happens. I'm going to be a little quiet so I make sure that I don't mess this up again. It's starting to get embarrassing. There we go. When you do everything correctly, it looks so easy. Not too big a time loss, though. Probably cost me about a minute, but there's more than enough time to make up for that. And that puts us halfway done with the original 22. So we have 2 branches left, Dawn and Storm. And the Storm branch, which is the last one we're going to do, has like the big, true final boss of the original 22 in it, called Redeployment. It's a level that all of the new players, including myself when I was new, really struggle with. But I'll talk more about that when we get closer. Here's another example of find the ramp ASAP. Land right here, and then we're going to do a slight variation to the combo in order to get up here, and then we're basically done the level. Now, something interesting about the level coming up next is there's a jump that we have to do that actually requires me to shift the camera. So you might not have noticed, but I'm actually looking over Demi's right shoulder as I play through the games, and you'll see that as I load to the next level. But this jump that I need to execute requires me to look over her left shoulder. And I can swap which shoulder she's looking over with tap. So, as you can see, I'm looking over her right shoulder. I need to jump up to here, kill the drone behind me, then go up to here. And then in order to line up my shot with this platform, I need to be looking over her left shoulder and jump up to this ramp. This is kind of another case of find the ramp ASAP. It just happens with the ramps at the end of the level. But it's interesting that you actually must change your camera position in order to do that ramp, to do that jump hop properly. Otherwise, the angle of your jump makes it impossible. This is the ultimate example of get to the ramp ASAP. So, unfortunately for Coilworks, the developers of Cloudbuilt, they did not realize how powerful ramps were. So there's all these adorable decorative ramps along here, but unfortunately this one points at that ramp. I actually missed that jump. That is very unfortunate. Okay, it's all good. It happens. I guess we'll find out just how generous my estimate is. There we go. So, jump from the little decorative ramp up to the real ramp. And then from the real ramp to the finish. Quick and easy.
My appreciation for these ruins among the clouds.
Now, speaking on the subject of this run not being completely clean, the nice thing about Cloudbuilt is because of the structure of the levels and the way the checkpoints are spaced, no deaths are really run-ending for the most part. You're at the most losing 10 to 20 seconds of progress because the levels are so short, at least in the original 22. That becomes less true as we get into the Defiance levels. But, again, I'll talk about that more as we get there. Completion of that level, this brings us to my source, which is a bit of an infamous level, or at least it used to be, for lagging the game out pretty hard. I'm pretty sure this was an engine test for Coilworks to determine how many squares they could fit in a level before the game just crashed. Because as you can tell, pretty much everything's squares. And the routing of those levels is kind of a nightmare. But now that we have a route fully designed, it's actually one of my favorites. And the performance issues on it have been pretty much resolved as well. So we're going to maneuver along into here to grab this energy pickup. then do 2 dash jump combos to get up to this cube, and then from here, hopefully I grab both of those energy pickups, which is nice, and we can just go straight to the finish. The energy pickups give you 50 energy each, and so if I'm able to grab 2 energy pickups at any given time, that means that I know I have full energy to work with, which is very comforting. There's nothing better than having full energy in Cloud Build. You can do so many things.
Much like the dreams.
And so this brings us to another good example, but both a final level, the final level of the Dawn Branch, and another good example of how powerful corner jumps are. So to recap, corner jumps are where I back away from the edge of the platform, and it believes that there's a ramp there. It's really strong here. So by backing away from this, I can create a ramp that allows me to jump to here, which skips almost a third of the level in and of itself. This level is long, so it's incredibly convenient. And then on top of that, coming up, we can skip the entire ending section. Ah, shoot. I need to wait for energy. That's okay. We can skip the entire ending section by jumping on the outside of this wall and then platforming our way up to the finish line. There's like a whole platforming section you're supposed to go through to get to there, but because of the way that that wall's placed, you can just go directly to the finish line. Nice and easy. So that's 3/4 of the way through the original 22. And we're going to the Stork Branch. And the Stork Branch has some of the shortest levels in the game. And this one coming up, again, there are a lot of good examples of them, but it's another good example of corner jumps. This one is a very obvious example, if I can get it set up correctly. The actual setup for corner jumps is very finicky. You might not look it, because I've gotten quite good at it in my Cloud play, but you're supposed to do basically a U shape around the edges. But because of corner jumps, we can just skip that entire U shape. And then I can use my gun to break my fall, and we can just go straight to the finish. Easy as that. 19-second times. That's what I like to see.
I'm beginning to see a purpose in the clarity of these dreams.
This next level is near and dear to my heart. It's one of very few levels in this game that I ever held first place on. Basically, when the game first came out, a bunch of people had like a bunch of different routes that all had different ideas for how to complete this level, and I had a lot of fun going through all those different videos, piecing together the little bits and pieces I thought were like the best and most interesting, and I put together a run that was good enough to get first place. And then after I posted a video of it, people were like, "Oh, that's a good idea." Took my ideas and then executed them better.
I've never understood
but I mean, that's what I love
held back
about this game.
technology from
So that level will always be a favorite of mine. We're almost at the grand finale of the original 22. This jump right here is very finicky. Ideally, I want to land where that checkpoint is, but sometimes I fall a little bit short, and then I'm very sad. So hopefully that won't happen again. Fantastic. And then from here, there's supposed to be a long tower climb you end up doing. But by traversing the outside of the tower, we can just complete this last little section, and we're good to go. Fantastic. So that leaves just one level in the original 22 to mess with now, and that is Redeployment. And Redeployment is infamous for its finale section, which is I like to call it the Death Spiral. I think most people call it the Death Spiral. I'm pretty sure I didn't come up with that. But basically, they just put you in a big tube with a bunch of enemies and a bunch of guardians, which are the little purple things that shoot out and try to murder you. The biggest annoyance about those is that they knock you off the wall, which is basically a death sentence in this game. But hopefully, I'm going to make it look like it's no big deal, and you'll wonder why anyone ever struggled with it. If things don't go as to plan, I'm going to make it look really hard. We start a checkpoint for full energy. There we go. So, cut back across the spiral, and then there's this big tunnel filled with enemies right here. But by jumping back and forth between the walls, I can make their shots miss, and then I can skip the platforming section and jump directly to the finish. And that is the end of the original 22. So now we're going to be doing what's called remix levels. And remix levels, the basic idea behind them is that you take bits and pieces of a certain segment of the game, in this case the original 22, and you combine them in new ways to basically make an entirely new level. It's a lot less work for the developers, but it's basically the same quality content for the players themselves. And there are 3 of these for the original 22, 2 of them for Fog, and 1 of them for Defiance. And the Defiance one is quite the ridiculous level. Now this level is good fun, but it's particularly interesting because there's a skip I'm going to try and do up here that's really hard. I need to grab 2 energy pickups on this jump. Okay. I'm going to give this one more shot. Got it. So, a couple things I had to do there. The first time, you notice, I ran into the purple thing called Guardian. So I need to get far enough left that I don't run into the Guardian, but not so far left that I can't get onto the wall. Then I must get 2 energy pickups. Because if I don't get 2 energy pickups, I don't have the energy to complete the entire jump. Because as I said, 2 energy pickups is full energy. So being able to pull that off is really nice. It looks cool. I wish I'd been able to do it on the first try, but it also saves a decent bit of time. This might be the most forgettable level in all of Cloud Build. It used to be my least favorite. Now I'm very, very apathetic towards it. It's super meh. I really don't have anything important to say about this level. One thing that's kind of interesting is there's a drone hive up here, the thing that like spits out drones. That like spits out drones about 20% faster than any other drone hive, so like no reason in particular. And that's about the only thing of note on this level. Oh, also there's this big jump to the finish. Which is like the bane of newer players, because if you don't know the jump combos, it can be very difficult to make that. But considering I'm applying for AGDQ, I would hope I would know the jump combos. And moving on to Remix 3. This is one of my favorites. The route for it is just really fun. Oh, we missed it. There we go. A little bit of combo there to get kind of take advantage of the weird angle of that ramp to get enough height to complete that section. And the rest of this is just going to have to be really crisp platforming. Basically not stopping from here on out. Unless I screw up. Fantastic. Passed all the hard parts. Now we just gotta jump to the finish. And done. So that's the remix levels. Going into our next section of the game, we have the Fog Branch, which is a personal favorite of mine. These levels were released. A big complaint about Cloud Build that a lot of people had is that the combat took away from the platforming. So these levels were meant to remedy that situation. All of these levels have 0 enemies, and they're really quite long compared to the original 22 levels. So, for someone who loves the mechanics of Cloud Build's platforming, this is exactly what I want to play. This level has a lot of verticality. So as a result, we're going to be doing a lot of vertical jumps. So our first one's going to be setting up a corner jump here. Then if we navigate our way up here, we're going to have to wait for energy by standing perfectly still. Once again, standing perfectly still. Back-to-back long jumps will require a lot of standing still, unfortunately. And then we just need to climb this tower and we'll be finished. The next level is pretty interesting because it is the opposite of this. It has basically no verticality. And it's entirely horizontal, which are the best kind of levels, because they require just really precise platforming, and they're super fun to play.
This place is full of ruins.
This one. And if you pay really... One challenge that I have for you is if you pay really close attention, when we get to the Fog Remix levels, you might be able to tell which sections of the levels were used for the various pieces. That's right, between those mines, grab that energy pickup. I'll point out a section up here that's definitely going to be reused, so at least you'll know that I'm not lying to you about the remix levels. This section right here is reused by the first remix level. Skip by those energy pickups. Lots of consecutive dash. And I want to save all of my energy for a final jump at the end. Or, I guess right here. Because we're going to this water slide to that water slide. Right there. It was just barely outside of the draw distance. And then from there directly to the finish. It's a little bit faster. The Fog Branch doesn't actually count as an ending, so as a result, we will not have to contend with any kind of cinematics kicking us back out to the main menu. And I believe, obviously, we don't get to hear them, because I'm leaving the level select immediately. But every level in the original 22 has some lore associated with it. Demi will tell you her thoughts on her current situation, what's going on in her head. But the Fog Branch only has 2 entries, I believe. I guess I could talk a little bit about the story. Basically, Demi is a war veteran who was wounded horribly in an explosion. And she's currently in the hospital, being both physically and mentally put back together. And the various routes through the original 22 are basically different ways she can interpret her situation, with the Night and Stork Branch being the sad ones, and the Dawn and Day Branch being the happy, more uplifted ones. And then the Fog Branch just gives you a little bit more of her general thoughts on her situation. This level is also near and dear to my heart, but not because of anything I did, but because of I need to look up his name. I'm so sorry to whoever this is for forgetting your name. I'll look it up before AGDQ if I get accepted. I'll look it up before AGDQ anyways, so I should just know this. But this level, the leaderboards were pretty much set in stone. It was like Caliphin, who's the best player objectively at the top, and then like everyone else kind of underneath him. And then one day, like 6 months after this level was released, and nobody was really playing it anymore, someone tops the leaderboard by like 3 seconds.
There is life here.
And it turns out that hiding in plain sight for those entire 6 months is a route that's just way faster than what we had accepted as the best. And this guy who was like well known in the community, but definitely not considered like one of the absolute top players, beat everyone just because his route was so much better. And that idea is so intriguing when it comes to cloud build. It's like one of the things that I enjoy the most. I'm setting up another corner jump here, in order to get up to that platform. Skip a large section level. Ended up a little bit short. So the thing I'm doing right now is called Pathfinder tricks. Basically, by pausing on the wall, I can use the gun to give myself a little bit of height, which allows me to run up the wall, and I can repeat that infinitely many times. I can climb an infinite amount of height with Pathfinder tricks. Unfortunately, they're really slow, so I want to use them as little as possible. But in that case, it's much faster to use the Pathfinder tricks to patch up a mistake than it is to do the entire jump all over again. And that was the end of the Fog Branch. Kind of. So now we're into the Fog Remix Branch. This is the section that I told you was repeated. It's repeated right at the beginning. Told you I wasn't lying. And this next section through here is... Actually, this level is just really fun. If I keep my momentum properly through here... Oh, I missed that energy pickup. That's a shame. Ah. Oh well. No major harm. Bit of a shame, though. I'd be a little careful here. The way Cloud Build likes to keep you on platforms is by basically creating really invisible low walls on the edges of all platforms that will try to keep you on, if that makes any sense. But the problem is that if you land really close to the edge of a platform, Cloud Build will just eat all of your momentum. So you have to be really careful as you're platforming that you don't get too close to any of the edges. Otherwise, all your momentum will go away, and you'll be in real trouble. And it feels really bad too. Just doing like jerks around a little bit. So this is the second remix fog level, and this one is very long. This jump right here. Ah shoot, we're gonna try that again. This jump right here is another one that requires about 125 energy. So I jump, I do a dash jump combo before I grab the before I grab the energy pickup. So I have an effective 145 energy. This jump is really hard to do to get like all the way to the top, so I typically have to use 1 or 2 Pathfinder tricks to patch it up. But Pathfinder tricks don't cost that much time, so it's not that big a deal. Same idea here. Pair of Pathfinder tricks to get us up to the top. It's so nice to have that Band-Aid available to you. It allows you to do so much riskier strategies, because you know that if you mess it up, it's not that big a deal, and it's only going to cost you a couple of extra seconds to get up to the top. you started that checkpoint with full energy. And this jump is actually impossible to get to the top of without a Pathfinder check. And then finally, to top off the Fog Remix levels, we're going to have another example of why corner jumps are so freaking good. So if I set one up properly here, I can get all the way to there. Just like that. Easy peasy. So that just leaves... Oh, we're going into the Battle Challenge levels. So, the Battle Challenge levels are... They essentially take one of the base original 22 levels, make it a bit longer, and then add a quadrillion enemies. And it can be very hard. Not only because when you take damage in Cloud Build, it locks you out of being able to give inputs. Cloud Build basically just ignores your inputs for a little bit, knocks you off of any walls you're platforming on, all that fun stuff. All the things that you would think would just end up killing you. So taking hits is basically not an option when you're doing platforming. So as a result, these levels can be very difficult. But on top of that, because there are so many enemies, your biggest opponent is actually lag, as you're going to see right in here. The frame rate is absolutely brutally low. And so what you're going to see me doing is grabbing every checkpoint as quickly as possible. Not because I necessarily need the energy or because I'm like worried about dying, but because restarting at the checkpoint resets all the enemies. Now luckily I have some pretty good routes for these levels, so they're not that much of a threat, but especially for newer players or like when it's your first time playing through them, they can be absolutely brutal. Like the only option here instead of going through that gauntlet is just to go around. And I can use these fences to interrupt the snipers. Finally, just jump right to the finish. One more of those. So, coming up, Battle Challenge 2. Interesting story about Battle Challenge 2. For a long time, this S rank was like almost impossible. Like, you've seen so far, pretty much all the routes that I've used have resulted in S ranks. And not only S ranks, but S ranks by a wide margin. Where I'm 10, 20 seconds ahead of the S rank. On this level, the route that I'm going to use, which is generally accepted as pretty much the fastest marathon safe route you can do, would get me like a B. And the reason for that is the way the S rank is determined is Coilworks will build a level, and then one of the devs who's the best at the game will go through and choose a route that doesn't have any major skips but is still fast. And then the fastest time they can get on that route will be the S rank time. So they built the level, they got their S rank time, and then they made the level longer, and they didn't update the S rank time. Whoa, I'm stuck. Okay. But they didn't update the S rank time. So for a long time, the S rank was basically impossible, because it was the fastest route on a level that was shorter than the level that we had. It actually wasn't impossible, though. There were 3 or 4 people to get it. Cliffin was the first one to get it. He's the best. Bunny from StarCraft 2 fame, I believe, got it. Midboss got it. And I got it. And I believe there might have been 1 or 2 other people. But yikes. It was really, really hard. Now this level has its own story behind it, as apparently all Cloud Build levels do. This is UC1, which stands for User Creation 1. It is the only level in the game that was not actually created by Coilworks. This won the first, and at this point, only map-making competition that Coilworks has hosted. And as a result, was polished up a little bit, and then put in the game. So the original name for this level is What Goes Up Must Come Down. And you know that red force field I jumped over at the beginning of the level? That's going to come back and be important here in a second. Because you see, that force field actually covered the goal. And that force field is powered by a generator that's all the way up here. So I'm going to need to shoot this. Got it. So I shoot that generator, and now my goal is to fall directly into that hole. Oh, too far right. It's going to be close. Got it. And that's the goal at the bottom. Really, really fun level. Really unique idea. And it's one of my favorites. And now we're at the end of baby time. We're past all the easy levels. We're into the Defiance levels. Now, there's a lot of things to talk about with the Defiance levels. These levels were created with all of the mechanics that we had discovered and all the tricks that we had in mind. It's basically Poyaworks, once they understood the depths of the game, creating levels that like truly let Cloud Build shine. They introduce a lot of new mechanics. They're incredibly long and they're incredibly difficult. I like to divide them into 3 tiers. We're going to be doing them in rough order of difficulty. This level, and the level I'm going to play after it, Desperation and Nostalgia, are the Tier 1 Defiance levels. They are somewhere between 2 and 2.5 times as long as a normal Cloud Belt level. They also contain a ton of new mechanics, and the biggest problem is that they contain 0 checkpoints. So the only checkpoints that I have access to are the ones that I place myself. I start every level with 1 placeable checkpoint, and I can pick up others throughout the level. But the problem is that most of the placeable checkpoints are behind puzzles in the Defiance levels. And puzzles are slow. So I will not have access to more than 1 or 2 checkpoints for the most part. So be very careful about where I place them, and this is where major time loss can occur. There's a big jump that I can do there, but I accidentally started down that ramp before I had full energy, and I wasn't confident I could do it without full energy. So unfortunately, I won't get to show that off. But oh well. So as you can see, that took me 1.5 minutes. A normal original 22 level takes me 20 to 30 seconds.
Looking at this.
Now a little bit about these new mechanics. There's a couple of them. You saw the green energy orbs in the last one that were featured heavily. Usually running into those will just give you a ton of momentum in a direction that will almost definitely kill you. The other one are these green jump pads. Now, the interesting thing about these is that for a couple of frames after you hit them, your abilities are massively enhanced. So if I can time... Wow, really? There's about a 1 in 50 chance that these turrets will actually hit you when you start the platforming. And I just totally got RNG screwed. And then I got RNG screwed again. Oh my god. This is hilarious. I'm gonna die. Okay, no. We're not gonna die. We're totally fine. Ah! Almost ran into those mines. Okay, we've got it this time. We've killed all the turrets. Oh yeah, so there's like a 1 in 50 chance that those turrets will hit you. It almost never happens. Of course it happened on this run. It's whatever. We adjusted to it totally fine. Just to be a little careful, because I have basically no health. We're going to place a checkpoint here. This jump that I have coming up is going to take me 99 energy. Which means that I basically can't use any energy to wall run. So instead, I'm going to do pathfinding tricks, and then do 3 jumps in order to get to here. Technically, if I can do it fast enough, I can set up a corner jump there, and then jump directly to the finish. But I didn't do it fast enough, so that turret would have caught me. Normally I would take the bullets from these guys, but I can't, so I need to kite behind the mines, because I don't have any health. And we're good. So, the little turret debacle didn't even cost us that much time. I believe I was explaining something about the jump pads before I got heavily distracted. But the jump pads enhance your abilities quite a bit. So if I can time my vertical jumps right after I hit the jump pad, it'll give me a ton of extra height, which is really, really nice. This level's a nightmare. This is the first of the Tier 2 Defiance levels. It has a ton of really, really hard sections. But, unlike almost every other Defiance level, or unlike every other Defiance level, this one has a major skip. And I got that checkpoint. Getting that checkpoint is absolutely huge. There's only about a 50-50 chance that I'll get it. So I'll place my first checkpoint here. So these red energy walls drain your energy down to 0. They're there to keep you from doing wacky things that you're not supposed to do. But it only applies to the floor. It doesn't apply to these fences, which you can technically stand on. Now, the hitbox for these fences is mind-bogglingly small. And that jump from that previous fence to this one is so difficult to do. And that's why this checkpoint is so important, because if I miss this jump, I need to do that jump again. But I never miss this jump because I'm the best. But the scary thing about the Defiance levels is I have no more checkpoints now. So if I die, I have to do that second jump again. And that was not that hard, but it is a big time loss, so I'd much prefer to avoid doing that. Now, what you're supposed to do coming up is a little tutorial or a little puzzle at the end in order to get some energy in order to complete this section. But if I conserve my energy just right, can skip that whole section, and I'll have just enough to do that jump. And once again, that takes advantage of the fact that those jump pads massively enhance my abilities.
I doubt going down this
So one
path
jump
will
gives me
lead
way
to-
more height than it normally would. Here we're going into Desire. This is the second Tier 2 Defiance level. And it contains one of the coolest sections Cloudbolt has to offer, the lightning bridges. It was actually used in the official like Defiance advertising, or like the trailer. Yikes, I'm taking a lot of damage. And hopefully, I'll be able to do it justice. This level does lag a little bit, so I'm fighting a bit of frame rate problems. Just like to have my excuses lined up. Here we go. It's okay for me to miss one energy pickup as long as it's not the last one. So missing that one. Oh god. We can recover this, we're okay. Usually that ending would look a whole lot better, but I made a small mistake and lost a lot of momentum. So I have two options here. I can go safe and grab that checkpoint, or I can go risky and not grab the checkpoint. And guess who's going risky? This guy. So that means that I will have no more checkpoints for the rest of the level. So if I die, we're doing lightning bridges again. And we'll also lose a ridiculous chunk of time. So let's not die. It's the plan at least. I like to add a little bit of tension. Even if it's artificial. The ending to this level is very fun. It essentially involves a whole bunch of glass surfaces, which are the surfaces that you slide all over, arranged in ramps with various obstacles on them. Things like the purple guardians, the bunch of mines, and other fun things to try to traverse around. You can also hear... Oh no. Okay. You can also hear the whirring of a drone behind me. He won't catch me, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I told you he wouldn't catch me. He wasn't even close. Totally not even close. So these were the ramps that I was talking about. Fun little level. But once you know the patterns down to dealing with them, it's not that hard. So now, the kitty gloves are really coming off because we're going into the Tier 3 Defiance levels,
Why do
which
I
are my
so
favorites.
desperately want to continue fighting?
So these are two very different approaches to difficulty. This is Defiance Remix, which, as Remix implies, is basically just bits and pieces of the hardest level in the game, put into a configuration to create arguably the hardest level in the game. This level is just a nightmare. Every single part of it is built to be as difficult as possible, but the level itself isn't overly long, taking only about 1 minute and 45 seconds to 2 minutes. This is a sprint in terms of difficulty. The other Tier 3 Defiance level, Chains, the final level of the game, is a marathon approach to difficulty. That level is like 5 minutes. I think the S rank time on it is like 4.5 minutes. It's something ridiculous. And while not every single part of Chains is really hard, because of the lack of checkpoints and the fact that it's still really hard, it's just a completely different type of difficulty. So you're going to get to see those two things back to back. We're going to have to focus a little bit. The ending to this level is where the difficulty really comes into its own. We're going to have to do a little bit of, I hesitate to call it AI manipulation. Basically, it's just like enemy dodging. The ending section, I should place a checkpoint. Hey, Caleb. The ending section is very difficult because there's a sniper turret that will shoot at you on the final section. However, if I jump around the edge of this platform like this, the turret can't, or the sniper can't see me, which makes this section way more fair. You can see the sniper up on the top of the screen. And actually physically possible. If that sniper's shooting at you, your life is so hard. And with that, I think we're going into our final level. Now, technically, this is it's the final level, but after you complete this, there will actually be a short little ending level that we'll need to play. And after that will be time. This level is very long and very, very hard, but also one of my all-time favorites. It's the final boss of Cloudbolt. It takes everything you've learned throughout all of the other Defiance levels and puts it to the test. Now, luckily, there's a skip that I need to do here that requires me to climb up these platforms, and at the top of this is actually a checkpoint, which gives me an extra checkpoint to work with, which is really, really nice. I'm going to be a little bit quiet through this, because it was hard. Did a little bit of a skip there. Oh! Okay, well, that was a bit weird, but it worked. So we're coming up on a section. I'm getting ready to place my first checkpoint. We're about a third of the way through the level. Right here. And there will be a long time before I get to touch the ground again. So it's kind of important that I don't make any mistakes in through here, because pretty much any mistake is instant death. So coming up, we're going to do a little bit of a skip. On the next energy wall, I'm going to do a dash jump combo through it in order to jump over to here, which skips another energy thing we would normally need to step on. I missed this energy pickup though, which is really unfortunate. Or, I'm sorry, it skips a jump pad that we would normally need to hit. And then we're going to make use of these jump pads again by executing a jump as close to hitting that jump pad that was behind me, you actually couldn't see, as possible in order to skip climbing up those stairs. This energy wall is interesting because it reduces you to 33% of your energy instead of to 0. So you have enough energy to do one dash, one jump, but not both. And I really wish I hadn't taken that sniper hit. That's okay. We're going to place our second checkpoint. This is the hallway of death. It is just filled with enemies. But there's a pretty cool, quick route that you can take through it, and hopefully I'll be able to get on the first try, because it looks really cool. Oh yeah, first try. First try. Why does this game even try? It's got nothing on me. I say as I like accidentally waste my energy and have to Pathfinder trick my way up. Oh well. So now, I think we're pretty much done with the hard parts. From here, assume I can avoid running into one of these mines, which, you know, actually isn't always a given. I just have 2 more quarter jumps to set up, and then we're finished. So first corner jump. Gonna go up to here. Second corner jump. Hopefully that guy won't catch me. And done. Okay, the stressful part's over. Instead of getting an ending cutscene, we get a nice little ending level to play. So, technically the fastest way to do this is to climb out onto the roof, which I'm going to give a couple of tries. A couple more tries. Come on. Work with me, Timmy. There we go. So if you get out on the roof, jump directly down to the ending trigger. It's probably about time even with how long that took me. Fun fact.
Okay.
Oh, page up. Fun fact, if you jump off the level after jumping out onto the roof as Ghost Dimmy, the game just crashes.
Enough for now.
And that was Cloud-Built Defiance. Cloud-Built Full Game Defiance. That's the name of the category. I have no idea how long that took me. It took me 47 minutes and 33 seconds, which is very respectable, especially considering how much I struggled early. So I think that pretty much shows that like a 15-minute estimate is very reasonable. This run wasn't completely clean. There's definitely a lot of improvements that can be made. And I hope you enjoyed. It's been a ton of fun. If I get accepted, I'll be absolutely ecstatic. Thanks for watching, I suppose.